Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers he plucks. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Adam Heath Avitable.
This is Dating Kinda Sucks, a podcast about dating, sex, and relationships. This week, we'll be talking about dealing with codependency. Enjoy the show.
If you're watching us on YouTube, now's a great time to subscribe, like, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss a single video.
And if you're hearing this, you survived Valentine's Day. Look at you go.
Congratulations. I love that you said it in like a sensual voice.
Some ASMR stuff right there. If you're hearing this.
If you're hearing this, you just came. Like, that's what that sounds like to me. Like, it's just soothing tones.
How did it feel?
Right. Yes. Congratulations on surviving Valentine's Day to everyone. Hopefully it was something you didn't put too much effort into and didn't have your expectations too high. Yeah, uneventful, and you just kind of didn't give a fuck and enjoyed the day for being a Sunday. That's ideally what happened. We are recording this on Thursday before Valentine's Day because Sarah is going on a romantic weekend for Valentine's Day.
I'm actually doing something for Valentine's Day, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
So you're going to be far away from Nashville in Nashville.
In Nashville, yeah. I'm taking 2019 me would just be so depressed right now that I'm so excited to pack my bags for a staycation. What the fuck? What the fuck
just gonna
happened?
say, yes, you're going on what the boomers call a staycation. And
I know, and I'm so excited about it, and I feel so stupid for saying that. But I am really excited because I'm so sick of being in the same place every single day right now. So we're just staying at his friend's Airbnb a couple miles away, and it will just be the two of us.
That's fun. And the nice thing about something like that is if you forget anything, it's really easy to go get it.
Really? Yeah.
So, if you forget your phone charger or something, you're like, oh, it's not like 6 hours away. So that's a positive.
I'm packing like I'm not going to go back, though, and I'm throwing everything in there. So difference is I'm not afraid to pack my whole bag full of sex toys to get scanned through the x-ray machine at the airport.
That's true.
I'm just throwing that shit all in. I'm like, do you see a dildo and a vibrator in there? I don't really give a fuck because I'm not scanning that shit through for a staycation.
Right. Yes. Have you done that? Have you ever brought a bunch of sex toys through a machine?
I brought one, but it was not a regular vibrator type shape or a dildo shape. It was more like an egg shape thing. So it's not like it was very noticeable. It looks like a beauty brush. So that was one of my older toys that I had. So I brought that in there and I didn't think anyone would notice. But yeah, I mean.
I remember when I went to San Diego for a blogging conference, and I had a hotel room that was in the hotel where the conference was, and I had a couple girlfriends who needed to use my room because their hotel was like a mile away. So they wanted to come for the conference, and then they just wanted to change into the evening because we always had parties to go to, and we're like, "Can we use your room for it?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can just here's an extra key. Just use my room for whatever you want. I won't be in there." And so they were going to all the different parties, and there was one of the there was a sex toy party that was doing like a big giveaway, et cetera. And so they won a bunch of like cool shit from that. Yeah. But one thing they won was a giant the black butt plug. The one you've seen. We have I have a picture of you with it in your I think in your hand, or I'm holding it. Yes.
Black butt plug.
Yeah,
yes.
it's fucking crazy huge. Like it's larger than my fist, and I have a giant gorilla sized fist. Like it is huge. Whoop. And they won that as one of the prizes, and they didn't want it, and so they just left it sitting on my pillow. And so, like, I remember the end of the night, I came back from like partying all night. It was probably, I don't know, it was late. It was probably 3, 4 in the morning because we've been out drinking all night. And I had somebody with me. There was another blogger that I brought back with me, and I just remember walking in, and I saw that with a little note, and I just started laughing my ass off. And then she was kind of like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, this is what it is, but this is why it's here." And then I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, do I just leave it in the hotel room for like housekeeping? Do I put it in the trash?
I
don't know what to do with it. So I like stuck it in my luggage. And so it traveled all the way from San Diego, flew all the way back. And I'm sure it showed up in X-ray as a butt plug because that thing, like it is a solid mass. Like it's not like it's hollow. Like it is a solid piece of equipment there. And it stayed in my top drawer ever since. So that was 10 years ago.
You still have it?
Yeah, we just took a photo with it the other day when you were
the exact same one though.
Oh, that is it. Yeah. What did you think? I went out and bought a replica of the big giant black plug?
It
No,
didn't seem as big as what you just made it sound like. So I was I've held a black plug, but I didn't think it was that.
I have a picture of you holding it up next to your face, and it's almost as big as your head.
Okay, well maybe I just don't remember right. I thought you had another one. I don't know.
Yes, it's giant, but and so yes, that's the same one. It's just been sitting in my drawer. And so I only use it. I
don't know your life like that. I don't know how many butt plugs you have that are black, that are I don't know.
Giant, yeah, I don't know, but that's just the one that I got for free, and I still have it years later. And in fact, for my 44th birthday, I posted 44 pictures that I'd taken over the last year that I was happy with, and one of them had a model holding it because she was doing doing like OnlyFans content. So she had there's a picture where she's holding it, and the blogger who left it on my pillow commented and said, "Oh, I recognize the present I left for you 10 years ago."
Oh my god.
But yeah, so that was pretty funny. But yeah, so I know that those security guards had to have seen that going through, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. Let them try to pull it out, of the luggage.
Jealous.
Yeah, I think just jealous. So that's there we go. We're already talking about butt plugs. This is a good start to the episode.
I'm like, speaking of butt plugs, it goes into my next point that I was gonna make that's happening in my life right with my recent relationship history of getting my asshole licked. Why do you make that face?
I don't know, just because the way you say it is so it's funny, which is what I said in our agenda. Sarah
on our agenda it says, Sarah got your butthole licked, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Adam, for just
here are the notes for what
I tell you ends up on the agenda. I swear to God.
For what Sarah's going to talk about, and I was like, oh yeah, you got your butthole licked. Let's put that on the agenda.
Let's talk about it.
Talk about that. But yeah, so you finally got your ass eaten by your boyfriend.
I mean, yes and no. I think it wasn't like a full ass eating.
It wasn't like a bag of groceries eaten. It wasn't like
no. Okay. Well, I get really nervous about it. So I'm pretty sure I have IBS. This is gonna get way TMI for some people listening, and you're gonna know a lot. But I'm pretty sure that I have IBS, and I worry that I'm just never as prepared as I should be. And on top of that, I just like can't. My internal system just does not work when I'm around him. Like I am weird about farting around him. Like I feel like I can never take a shit around him. It's just a weird thing. And
that's understandable.
Anytime we're in bed and he kind of wants to do those things, I'm like, I don't know about this. This might not be a good idea to even explore that area. But this whole situation over the weekend happened because I don't know what we were doing, but we ended up taking a shower together. And then after we showered, he kind of prompted, he was already like eating me out. And he was like, is it cool if I do that? We just showered, so you should be good. And I'm like, ooh, I mean, yeah, I should be good, but I don't trust my body like that to be good like that. I don't know. I just don't trust my body as of late with just what's going on.
I don't want to know what you think is going to happen. Like, I don't want to know how you think your body's going to involuntarily react.
Well, sometimes it's like, is this a fart or is this going to be a shit? Like, I
mean, either way, that wouldn't be a good thing. Like, I'm just saying, like, either way. Like,
but I just get so nervous, so that I come so quickly with anything that has to do with my ass that it's almost immediate. And he laughs about it. He goes, all I really have to do is like touch you in that area, and you come twice as fast and harder.
It makes sense why he'd want to be involved in that, because it's an achievement.
Right. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I get nervous because I don't trust myself. And like, if he tries to stick a finger up there or he tries to do anything, I don't know. And I've never had anal sex before either, and that's something I kind of want to try, but also I'm again very nervous to do. So yes, he was down there, and like it says in the show agenda, I got my butthole licked, but I mean, it was good, but that's just like a thing for me that I just get nervous every time, and he knows that, and he's like, Sarah, can you just relax and not worry about it? It'll be fine. But it in my head, I have like past experiences with men like shaming me and shit like that I hold myself back from wanting shit like that, yeah. From wanting to enjoy that part of sex.
It's just funny that as much as you talk about it, that you're shy about it.
I'm just so nervous that something.
That's really what it is. It's as much as you talk about it, like it's one of your favorite phrases. Like all of this, you talk
my whole ass.
Yes,
I mean, I
exactly.
say that all the time. That is my punchline that you're now using. That
I stole it because it's brilliant. I love it. Eat my whole ass is such a great so like now, yes. Now I've co-opted it. I'm using it as well, and it's just funny that you're so nervous about that type of thing. And you've mentioned before that just like you don't use the bathroom much when he's around, and
I don't know how to fix that. That's been a constant problem since high school. Of overnight trips to places. I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. I'm so fucked. My whole body's fucked for a week until I can shit in my own place. So I get even just like on our trip to the Smoky Mountains or this trip, just staycation in Nashville, that my body's just not gonna function the same, and I'm like, nope, let's not.
Oh no, I mean I absolutely 100% understand that, and I'm the same way, so I get that. I mean, I've literally gone on trips, overnight trips into hotels with people, where we're sharing a bed or a hotel room, and then just decided in the middle of the night to wander down to the hotel lobby and find one of the bathrooms down the back, to go to the bathroom in, because I didn't want to use the bathroom in the actual hotel room.
That's something I would do. Yep, 100%.
Because I found that those bathrooms there's never been anybody there, especially like 3 a.m, and they're usually by the convention centers and stuff like that, and they're always clean, and they usually have a lock, so you just lock the whole bathroom door too, which is just perfect.
Ooh, but I'm not staying in a hotel, so I don't have an out for this one.
Yeah, you could just be like, hey, I'll be right back, and then just drive home again.
Drive home. Just hold it until then. Great.
Just hold it until you get home. That would be pretty.
Anyways, this is all TMI, but yeah. On to the next thing. Let's stop talking about bathroom talk. But it's real though. I don't know. It's like a real relationship struggle for me, I guess.
And I think it's one of those things that some people are like just immediately comfortable with that type of thing, and some people aren't. It just depends on who they are, and so and how they grew up, and like people who are in the military, I think like they don't care. Like it doesn't matter to them. But there's plenty of people that it's going to be an issue forever, and that's okay.
I'm flawed. What do you know?
No, I mean, I think it's okay too. Like I'm the same way. I am absolutely the same way. Before we continue recording, just so you know, your video is frozen.
Really?
I haven't been able to. Yeah, you haven't moved in a while. I thought you were just being very stoic for a while, but now I can't tell what is going on.
Damn it. Hang on. Really? I mean, I have full internet.
Yeah.
And I'm not moving at all.
No, you're not. Let me see if. Oh, hold on. Oh, now it's back. Good. I don't know what happened, but all right, good. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah, I don't know how you were gonna go from shit to on your next little bit there.
Well, speaking of shit.
Lovely. Where else are we going with this?
An encounter with a weird piece of shit at the post office that I wanted to talk about, and I thought we should discuss.
Oh God, this literally happened today. I was looking like shit like I do right now. I'm wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Not that that even matters. Even if I looked nice, it wouldn't matter. But I was just dropping a package off at the post office. There's no one else in the post office but me and obviously the guy working behind the counter. And he makes a comment about, wow, you're so beautiful. And then he, is asking about the package or whatever. And he's just like, I could
wait, hold on. You were wearing like that?
I was literally wearing this fucking awful outfit right now. I'm in all gray with my coat over top, and I had my mask on and my hair pulled back. I look like a 12-year-old boy. There's nothing to see here. Nothing to see.
Yeah.
Even if there was something to see, he still should have made the comment that he made. But as I'm giving him the package, he's like, I could just eat you up. Like, just awkwardly laughing to make him feel more comfortable, where I'm just like, what the fuck is happening right now? I need to get out. And he's just like, oh, I just got my dessert for the day. Ooh.
What?
Just so, yes, he actually said that.
And this is the employee.
The employee at this post office said this to me, and I'm just waiting for him to hand me the receipt for my package so I can get the fuck out of there. And he's just like, "Oh, you're just such a sweet treat. Have a nice day, sweetie." And it was just, I mean, it was only a minute of interaction, but in that minute was jam-packed with all of these things that he should have just not said. And I left and obviously had to record that on Instagram because I'm just
that's fucked up.
Always surprised when shit like that happens too.
Hey, men, don't do that. Like, let's just say that. Just shut the fuck up. There's no reason to say anything like that to somebody. Like, right. I could just eat you up. That's not the compliment you think it is. I'm sorry.
Even if it was my grandmother, I'd be like, "Hey, stop that."
If your grandmother said that to you, that'd be weird. Yeah, too. I mean,
I feel like that's a grandmother thing to say. Like, "You're just so cute. I could just eat you up." Isn't that?
Well, that's true too. But it's a sexual thing too. Like, if you're with someone and you're like, "Oh, I could just eat," like you can be, I could devour you. You know, I mean, that's something you say to someone that you're actually involved with, not some random stranger who's trying to just ship a package.
Right. I mean, I totally understand being friendly and providing customer service, but this was not that. You know, the exchange should have been,
this was not
"Hi,
that.
Hi, how are you? Oh, you want to ship this package? Yes, awesome. Hope you're having a good day. How's your day going? Great. How is yours? Cool. Here's your receipt. Have a nice day." That should have been all of the exchange, but it was just a very awkward. And that's the post office I continuously go to. So I'm gonna have to pick a different time where I don't see this guy because it just made me feel really uncomfortable.
Or if you do again, I would file a complaint. I mean, that's really creepy that he would say that shit. And I don't think it's okay for guys to say that. There's no reason for him to say stuff like that. It's not a sweet thing to say. That's a creepy thing to say.
And it's always one of those moments where you think back, and I should have said something in that moment of like, "Don't say that," but then it would have just made things more awkward it's so fucked up, right? If I would have said something and been like, "No, that's inappropriate," then it would have made it awkward for him and more awkward for me. So my option was to just smile and laugh and then fucking leave, you know? And I think a lot of the times people are like, "Well, why don't women say that they're uncomfortable or whatever?" But you feel more awkward when you bring it up because you don't know how the guy's going to react to something. And that's exactly why I just smiled, because I was like, I don't think this is going to be a good thing if I confront this head on. So let's leave.
Yeah, that's so fucked up. It really is, and that's annoying. And yeah, it's very true that if you had just made a scene about it and said something, then somehow you would have been, first of all, the one making the scene.
Bitch.
You know, like, even though it's him saying the things, and then but what happens now is that he also thinks he's validated in thinking this, that it's okay because nobody said anything, and it's this weird. It's this weird double standard that's out there, that if you had it the other way around, like if a guy was standing there and another guy said to him, can you imagine if there's some homophobic guy up there, he wouldn't deal with it. He would say some shit about it.
Bro? Yeah. Shut your fucking mouth. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. So that's weird. That's fucked up. And men, don't do this. If you're listening, don't do that. If you have the inkling in your head to say something like that, then think again. That's really the other thing. It doesn't matter.
And I got a couple questions about, but was he older? Was he an older guy, or
doesn't
was he
fucking matter?
Exactly. I was like, who gives a fuck? I gave no details because it doesn't matter what his age was, what he looked like, if he was hot or not, or whatever. It still was inappropriate.
Yeah, old people are creepy as fuck too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, if he was older, it's still not an okay thing to say. It's just,
we don't just pass that off as creepy old grandpa over there. You know what I mean?
If he says something racist, you'd be like, "Oh, well, he's old." You know, it's the same kind of thing. If someone is going to say something creepy, misogynistic, it's not okay, and that is fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Yay. At least he didn't say I could eat that ass like a bag of groceries, though. Like, I feel like that.
Like, excuse me, sir, but how do you know so much about my life?
Well, that's sounds like pretty. We're gonna find out more about your trip when we come back from for our next episode. So there's really nothing else has been going on in your life beyond that.
No, just work and hating my life. So,
okay. In our dating kind of sucks news, I would like to, first of all, before I get into it, I would like to invite, if you haven't yet given us a 5-star review on iTunes, we would really love it, because we have a decent number of good reviews, but there's also people who we rub the wrong way, and people who rub the wrong way
likes That's fine.
Well, yeah, which is fine. We're not everybody's cup of tea, but if we're not everybody's cup of tea, it's good just to switch the channel, find a new podcast. But I find that a lot of people who don't like us are like tend to be really petulant and kind of obnoxious, and they're like, well, I have to go write a review now. And so we've had some, occasionally we get the random 1-star review, and that usually picks on Sarah for some reason, and that's what I want to talk about.
It's always I will say any complaint that is ever made about the two of us, I'll do something and you'll do it too, but I'm the only one who ever gets called out for it. So for example, and this wasn't a complaint at all. So for example, I started a second podcast, and I've mentioned this before, and everyone was like, "Oh, are you mad at Adam? What, is he okay with you starting a second podcast? How could you start a second podcast without Adam?" Meanwhile, Adam started a second podcast months before. I was totally cool with it. We made an ad that I joked about that we always play in our break of, "You started one without me." No one fucking asked. No one asked Adam, "Oh, that was is Sarah okay with that? That was a dick move for starting a second podcast." No one gave a fuck.
I don't understand why anybody would have an issue with you starting that other podcast. Like, of course, I mean, it's so weird to me because, like, we are trying to, I want you to be successful.
From other women. It's always from other women. I'll just put that out there too.
And I think it's a weird thing that I feel like we have seen quite a bit. And, yes, if we go through like our negative reviews, I think there's one negative review about me, one that says, "Oh, Adam feels like he's kind of that woke feminist, but then he talks over Sarah sometimes and won't let her arrive at conclusions on her own," or something like that. Okay, sure. But whatever. I don't care. Do you know how much planning Sarah and I do when we figure out who's gonna exactly, like, we just talk. We're having conversations. Sometimes we talk over each other. But almost every other negative review is something about Sarah, and it's almost always women, and it's women who have a problem with the same things that I say or I do, but they're always like, "Well, I don't want to hear Sarah do this," and it's like this weird internalized misogyny that bothers me. And like the most recent one was about the fact that she didn't think this reviewer and this person that had contacted us with a negative response to our podcast did not like that we talked about our personal lives on the podcast.
Which we've always done since day one. Right. The first half of our episode is our personal fucking dating lives, and the second half is still our personal fucking dating lives, mixed in with somewhat of the topic we might actually discuss and have takeaways for.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
And if people are listening to us only for the advice, well, we're not experts. Like, we're the reason that we give advice. Exactly. The reason we're giving advice is because we're actually learning as we go, and we're sharing our experiences, our personal experiences we share before the first half usually are more relevant than to dating and relationships than the second half sometimes. And I think and they're definitely based on, and it's all anecdotal evidence and everything. So, we're not sitting here as two doctors with like this clinical, explanation about how to deal with this or how to deal with this. We're just talking from our own experiences as two garbage human beings who have lived through done a shit of stuff ourselves and trying to be better people. Like that's the extent of it. So if you don't enjoy the personal aspect of it, how can you even listen to the second half? I don't get it. But they didn't say anything about me doing the same thing. They didn't say anything about me having it. It was all about Sarah. And I just wanted to just point that out, that next time someone, if you were listening and you're like, "Oh, I have a negative thing to say," and you're like, but it's all about Sarah for some reason, then
you don't need to defend me.
Well, I'm not trying to defend you.
You can defend yourself. Cool.
I'm just saying, but if it's all about Sarah, then I want you to think about why that is. Like, is it something that you don't like that she talks about things very bluntly because you could never talk about that with your, like, you don't have a safe space to talk about those things? It is something where you don't feel like it's quote unquote ladylike. If there are reasons like that, then you need to assess your priorities, is what I want to say, because that your opinion is pretty much shit, in my opinion. Like, that's a bullshit reason. Those are bullshit reasons. If you want to try to, I don't think it's appropriate. Well, fuck you. What is appropriate, what's not appropriate. We share some of the most personal details of our lives because it allows people to know that we're going through this too, and it resonates with our listeners. And if you don't like that aspect, then just fuck off. That's really all you have to do.
We're real, though. We don't
need your opinion on it.
true, and we don't hold anything back. So me talking about getting my ass eaten or whatever, I don't give a fuck. Like, if you find that too vulgar, if you think, oh, I could never, how could you? I don't fucking care. Like, that does not impact me. But I hope that it does help somebody who might be feeling the same way or having the same problems with their IBS that I have, or you know, like, you're just not alone. So that's why I share literally everything, because one, it's kind of funny, and two, I hope it helps somebody.
And finally, is if somehow you're waiting and feeling like worried about like Sarah's relationship and how dare she talk about discussions or arguments she might have with her boyfriend on here. They talk about all of this in person. Like our whole tenet of what we do for this fucking podcast is about communication. I mean, that is the number one keyword for this podcast is communication. And so I can fucking guarantee you that she communicates well with him before we ever get to the podcast recording of the discussion of what happened. So you don't have to worry just empty little head about it. Like just move on. And so this is just like going out there to anybody who just like feels like they're trying to live vicariously through you, but somehow feel bad for some part of our lives. Like it's just dumb. And I'm going to be blunter, obviously, than Sarah is in this case. Like,
yeah,
Sarah never likes when I go on these rants about stuff because she doesn't need me to defend her.
This is unnecessary. This is unnecessary. Let's just move on. It happened. Well, I'm more for like just more hate. It's fine. It's just another person. On to the next one.
I enjoy when we have people who don't like us. I enjoy when we have people, but because it's just like that means you're doing something right. Because if you have people who don't like you have people who do like you. Like it's nobody got anywhere by being middle of the road. Like you polarize. So that's a big part of I think of growing and developing an audience. But it's just the fact that they just always feel the need to attack you that just annoys the hell out of me. And
when you do the exact same thing and get no hate.
Exactly. Nobody
or
ever.
Worse. When you do worse than me, but I do an inkling of what you do, and I'm the one who gets shit on, always blows my mind.
It blows my mind too. So what I'm saying is, come at me, bro. I'm the one who's here.
I'm the captain. I'm the Sarah now.
I am the Sarah now. Okay, my rant's done. I'm done ranting.
Thank God. Okay, on to the next thing, please. Whew.
What's the next thing?
Your dating life, your sex life, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't had much of anything recently. Of course, we had apparently some confusion over the code name. I want to call her Lil BLT, like she's a rapper, by the way. I think you just
not
BLT.
Little BLT.
Lil BLT. So, Lil BLT and I, we had a date scheduled for last week, but had to reschedule for for a very valid reason, and so we are now going out this Friday, which is tomorrow. So she is coming over here. I think I'm gonna cook some dinner while she's here. Just something.
What the fuck are you gonna make?
I was gonna make homemade pizza, but the dough is actually already rising too much, so I'm gonna cook that tonight for my own dinner. Probably make steak sandwiches. I got some really nice thinly cut flank steak that I'm gonna season and cook, and just make some nice steak sandwiches. Something simple. I mean, I know she likes BLTs without the lettuce and tomato, so steak sandwiches should be pretty good. And we're gonna have some dinner, and then one of the no. I mean, ideally, we'll get to that. We'll see.
I'm kidding. We're not assuming anything. I'm just making.
Yes, I never assume, but we are going to go out with some friends to. One of the girls that lives with me, her boyfriend is a bartender at a gay bar, so we're gonna go there and have some drinks with them and hang out, and then we're going to hit downtown, whatever's around and available on a Friday night, which is usually pretty decent, and walk around there and have some drinks till probably 2 a.m. Who knows how late.
Planning on staying the night?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I knew that was something you guys talked about last time, was instead of her driving to meet somewhere in the middle, that she's just going to plan to stay.
Yeah, so she's just gonna come this way and crash here for the night, and that way she can leave Saturday morning. And we'll see if sex is on the menu for that. But either way, it's gonna be a fun night. I'm looking forward to it. We've been talking on the phone or texting throughout the day, pretty much consistently since our last date. So it's been good. We enjoyed chatting quite a bit, so that's nice.
No face, just phone calls and text. No, like
She's not a
video
fan of
calls.
FaceTime, and I'm okay with that. I mean, she's one person that I would be fine FaceTiming. There's very few people
Right.
that would do that, but she doesn't like it, so I'm good with it. Because I think she walks around when she's on the phone like she's a nervous mover.
She's
And,
doing stuff and
yeah,
talking and
so
yeah.
that makes sense. And it's funny, this thing that I'm doing, that she listens to the podcast, but she won't know about this because this episode will air after our date. But she's never really had. She told me she's never really had a good birthday experience in her life. Like her birthday's always been kind of just a blah occasion, like just throughout her marriage, just since she was like younger, and so it's never really a thing for her. So I thought it might be nice. We'll see. I got a little birthday tiara and a like birthday girl sash or birthday bitch sash. I don't remember what it says. Birthday queen maybe. And we're gonna. She doesn't know this, but we'll see if she wants to do this. I'm gonna offer to her and say we can pretend all Friday night that it's her birthday. And
Ooh,
so
the free shots in her future. Am I
free
right?
shots, but just also just so that oh let's make up for all your old birthdays and let's just try to pretend like this is one.
Aw,
That
look,
might be.
you listen. Look at you.
I know. Although we did talk about how we're violating all of the rules because on our first date she came back to my house. On the second date
Oh,
we
you also went to Ale House.
well yes, we went to the house, and on our second date is Valentine's Day weekend. We're going out, so I was like,
Right.
yeah, that just breaks every rule. But that's
Well,
all right.
Valentine's Day doesn't matter though, so that's fine.
True. That's very true. So yeah, that's all that's going on now. So I'm sure next week I will have is a different update and on what happened. As long
Ooh, I
as
can't wait.
everything goes well, or even if it goes terribly, I'll still share.
So have a good story.
I mean, if it goes terribly, it just makes for better podcast material.
It
When
really
things go
does.
well, like nobody gives a shit. Like everybody listens and just like rolls their
I know.
eyes.
I feel like my stories were so much more exciting when I had terrible day after terrible day of crazy shit that happened. So hope for the best, but wish for the worst. Am I right?
Hope for the best, but wish for the worst. That's not well. It's not really how the saying goes, but we can say that.
What
The
I'm
saying
good for the podcast
is
sake.
hope for the best and plan for the worst. But
Or wish. Well, people wish for the worst for the good story.
yeah, we hope for the best. Our audience hopes for the worst.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They want to hear some shit go down, basically.
What's the drama?
Yeah, exactly. Because the drama fuels everything, and that's I think that's a good way for us to end that and move on to our topic after our break. Right? Are you ready for that?
Ooh, this is gonna be a heavy one. I feel.
I don't think so. I think it'll
No,
be good for.
it might hit people a little too
Yes.
hard. I think that's what I mean by heavy.
Yeah, so if you want to find out maybe if you're codependent or try to figure out how to deal with codependency, then stay tuned after the break. So one thing that I've always said about codependency that I consider to be codependent that gets everybody always mad, that they'll always get so pissed off about this, is that I think that when you go out to a restaurant as a couple and you have to sit on the same side of the table, that it demonstrates a neediness that is codependent. Like it demonstrates this idea that you would rather have to have someone close to you, like you need this physical proximity rather than be able to sit across from them like an adult and have a conversation with them. You want to have to share your food. Like it's just all of these weird things that make no sense to me why you'd want to sit on the same side. It's uncomfortable, you can't talk, etc. The only reason I can imagine doing that is that you're codependent and needy. Everybody always gets mad at me and is like, well, you're just being judgmental and blah blah blah. So thought that maybe it'd be a good idea to talk about actual codependency, not just what Adam's concept of codependency is. And maybe
I know that's always one that
discuss
pisses people off.
it's so funny how sometimes it's these weird little things that really are so polarizing that someone just gets so angry because I think the only time that I am going to say this. The only reason I think people get so defensive is because they know it's true. Because I think that deep down they're like, yeah, I mean that's what it. They know, because that's the only reason people get mad about things is because they're trying to defend their actions because they know that there's truth in what the other person is saying. That's usually what it is. It's like usually
and no one wants to admit that they're codependent either.
Right. And it's like those not all men. Anytime the guy's like, well, not all men do that, that guy does that. That's the reason he's defensive about it, because he's seeing a reflection of what he is in whatever someone's saying. So, Let's talk about it in non-polarizing terms. Let's talk about it just in the idea that, you know what, everyone has some elements of codependency, and maybe we can kind of talk about ways to recognize it and maybe how you can break free of it. Because regardless of what some people like to say, it's not healthy. It's not a good thing.
Right. I think it's one thing to just list off, here are ways that you're codependent, yada yada yada. But I think seeing examples in real life and going, "Oh, that's what codependency looks like." Maybe that's the booth thing for you. But I mean, I've had personal experiences, and I'm sure you have as well, of seeing people, or maybe it was us, that were one of us who was codependent, and we're just now recognizing it. Because I mean,
Right.
I used to have a friend who always had to have a boyfriend, and she would go ghost on all of her friends when she was with somebody, and then when they would break up, she would cling on to either me or one of her other friends until she found somebody else to cling on to. And it was a really challenge. It was a joke of, oh, that's just how she is. She always has to have one person by her all the time. She always had to bring her boyfriend around for any party, any get together. I'm like, but why can't you just come by yourself? I don't understand why you have to bring him, or why do you have to have someone to run an errand at Target with you? I mean, I'm more than happy to
Yeah.
hang out with you, but
Yeah.
I don't need to, and so I started placing boundaries on our friendship, and eventually that kind of fizzled because she found somebody else who she could hang out with all the time. And I never really understood why that was. I just figured, oh, that's kind of how she's always been, or maybe that's just how her parents brought her up, that because her parents have a weird relationship too, that maybe that shaped her in some kind of way. And now seeing it in real time, I'm like, oh shit, like she was very codependent. I just didn't realize what that was at the time.
Yeah, I think that fear that someone's going to leave them is what makes people like get swallowed up in relationships, but also move from relationship to relationship. Like I have some Facebook friends where I will see them quote unquote madly in love with someone on Facebook. This person's amazing, my dream, blah blah blah,
Right.
in a relationship, and then a month later or a week later they're gone, and then 2 days later they're with somebody else, and it's the
Da,
same
da, da,
thing.
da. Yeah.
And it repeats and repeats and repeats, and that is someone who's extremely codependent. They're so afraid of being alone, they just can't handle the idea of it, and they're so afraid of somebody leaving them that they will do whatever it takes to get somebody to stay with them, even if it like harms them on an emotional or physical level.
Yeah, and that their only value is being a good partner. And what that good partner is to them is solving their partner's problems and making sure their partner's always feeling wanted and loved. And they look at that as a reflection of, I'm just such a good person because look at all these things I do for the other person. But what they're not doing is taking care of themselves.
Yes, that's a major aspect of codependency, is basically sacrificing who you are to take care of somebody else, like sacrificing everything about yourself, including your own principles, doing things that, giving up things that you otherwise would never have given up, making sure that someone, like when someone's like, oh, well, so and so comes first, that's nice. Like
Uh,
that's a nice sentiment to say
it
so and so
sounds
comes
nice,
first.
but
But like I've always said, you have to be selfish before you can be selfless. Like you have to make sure that you're okay first before you can put somebody else, like put somebody else's needs up there. You have needs, and if you are wasting all your, or not wasting, spending all your time, well, it is wasting,
it is
wasting all
wasting.
your
Let's be
time, but
real.
putting their needs before your own, then you nobody's taking care of your needs, and
Right.
unless you're both, I guess, both codependent, and then it just like is
I
this.
don't know how that works though. I feel like one person is more of the one not controlling, but the more confident one, and the other person's always checking to make sure that they're happy. And so they're spending all of their free time like, I'm making them happy, I'm making them happy, I'm making them happy. And then they're like, okay, well then we must be good in the relationship. If I've done all of this stuff, if I put all of
Yeah.
this emotional energy into them, there's no way that he can't be happy. And then when they obsess about it in their free time when they're not around, of, is he not unhappy in the relationship? Could he possibly be cheating on me? And it becomes this obsessive thing because you're just so worried about your relationship and the other partner, instead of being secure and self-confident that I trust him, I'm good, we're happy. If
Yeah.
we're not happy, he would say something, instead of feeling that need to be validated every second of every day.
Yes. I think that, I think that I have started to learn that, that my marriage was probably codependent, with both of us actually having codependent elements, because in a lot of ways I would actually put her needs before mine. There were times where I would avoid conflict, which is a big element of codependency, where instead of being willing to say, hey, I'm not okay with this. I mean, a great example is that I would take all my employees to the movies. And I've told this before, but I would take everyone to the movies every Friday. It was a thing that we did every fucking week. We would all go to the movies at like the first show of the day, like the 11 a.m. show, because it was like me just thanking everybody. And I wanted to, like, hey, let's go to the movies for 2 hours. You got paid for it, like come out and, have fun. So I would take everybody out there, and she knew this. And every single Friday, I'd be like getting everybody, we would all sit down, and there wasn't a lot of us, there was like 5 of us. We'd all be sitting there, and my phone would buzz, and it would be her calling, and I would ignore it because we were in the theater and like the movie was about to start. And
she knows this is what you
right.
do
Well,
every
she would
single
have to
week.
know this. How would she not? Like it would just, and it was, she would call, and I would I'd hang up, and she would call again, and I'd hang up. So the third time, I'd finally like get up and walk out of the theater and be like, "Hey, honey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, I just want to tell you about something that happened at work." And I would say, "Well, can I ask you out? Talk to you about this afterwards?" I'm just sitting down with our Friday movies with everybody, and like and she would get mad. And so instead
If you
of
don't have time for her, why aren't you paying attention to her?
right, and why are my employees in this movie more important than her? And so instead of being like, listen, I'll talk to you in 2 hours, you can survive for 2 hours, and hang up the phone, which is probably what I should have done.
Right.
I didn't. I'd be like, okay, and so I would talk to her for as long as it took. Sometimes it was only a 5-minute conversation or less, and it would never affect my ability to go watch the movie at all. But it didn't matter. I was so willing to, like, I didn't want to, like, oh, I was so willing to avoid conflict that I would say and do whatever she would say. Whenever she would get mad about anything, I would bend over backwards to accommodate her, rather than communicate honestly with how I felt about it.
Oh, look at that communication coming around full
I know,
circle in
right?
what's
Oh yeah,
important in every single relationship.
absolutely. And she, I think, was codependent in the sense that she would basically, like, she was told her, said that our marriage is perfect until there was no, fixing it. And then she gave me a list of all the things that were wrong with me.
Right. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and said, "Oh, these are all the things you should talk to your therapist about." And so that tells me that she was doing, which a lot of codependent people do, is they cover for the other person's, like, shortcomings. Like they don't ever try to acknowledge the issues. Like, if she had these issues and had never brought them up, then that's codependent, because she was so worried. And then I also remember when I had lap band surgery, and like I was in the process of going through everything, and she goes, "Hey, will you promise me that when you lose weight, you won't leave me for somebody hot or somebody else?" Not
Really?
even hot. She just said somebody else. Yeah. So like she was always so worried about being left alone, and
Oh,
and yeah.
wow.
Of course, I mean, we did end up getting divorced and all of that, but so I mean, it did happen, but like it was for like a variety of those reasons. Like it just, I don't know. She needed me in such a level that I had to, like, I would rebel against it, because like I needed
She
space.
relied on you
Yes,
for
yes,
not only just her happiness, but just everything.
yeah, yeah.
Someone to talk to, someone to hang out with, someone to, I don't know. I would say have sex with, but
Well, we didn't have sex, yeah. So we know that. But like, so we were both two unhealthy aspects of the codependent. I was the people pleaser who would excuse her behavior and avoid conflict, and I wouldn't set boundaries with her and all of that. And then she was kind of manipulating and emotionally bullying and suffocating and like obsessed, and didn't know who she was without me. And so between the two of us, like, we both had both elements of codependency. I'm not saying mine were healthier than hers, but mine were less maybe harmful to her, whereas hers were more targeted towards me. And so between the two of us, it was just like a perfect recipe for a disaster, I think.
it just sounds so fucking toxic.
Yeah.
It seems like with codependency issues, one person in the relationship just shouldn't be in a relationship, period, until they have time to be single and figure their shit out. Whether that's hobbies, whether that's other friend groups, whether that's a feeling like they have a purpose and they're 9 to 5, just anything, but they don't have a lot of those things, so they rely on someone else to be that. I think some of that also falls on, you know, what all people want is to have their MRS degree and to have kids and just to be in a relationship, and that's success for some people, which is okay. Define your own success. But for that one friend that I was talking about, that's all she wanted. So when you stripped everything else away and she didn't have a relationship, she felt like a failure because she had nothing. So she had to be in a relationship. She had to have someone with her to feel like she had value, because she had no self-love and she just didn't value anything else in her life except for that relationship that she constantly had to mend and get reassurance that it wasn't going anywhere, or she would have nothing.
What about you? You think you have you had any codependent, like codependency in your, like, that you've exhibited?
I think I've had moments post breakup where I felt like I need to, maybe in my first relationship, it wasn't like the healthiest. I don't think anyone's first relationship was like, that was a good one. We made that one work out really well. I wouldn't say it was as, I've always been pretty confident, and I've always had a lot of self-confidence. So I don't think like I've had issues stemming from that. I've felt in the past though that I do want to be in a relationship. Sure. I'm fine being alone, but I want but I think some people get the, like, when they say they're not codependent, they're like, no, I'm not codependent. I just want to be in a relationship. You know what I mean? But they are codependent. They like really, really need that. Versus for a long time being single, I just really wanted that after so long of not having it. That's just what I was seeking, you know?
Absolutely.
So I think some people would be like, well, you were codependent because you wanted to be in a relationship or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, I wanted that, but I was still single for almost 3 years and some change to appreciate that. Post breakup my last relationship though, all I wanted to do was be back in a relationship, because I felt like I was so lost that I felt that a relationship would make me feel happy again, because I did lose some confidence from that relationship ending. But it was a very short-term, fleeting feeling of just feeling hurt, that thinking a relationship would solve that. I think that's normal. I don't think that's a long-term you're codependent, but in that moment, yeah, I wasn't in a good state of mind for 3 to 6 months after that relationship ended, and I know that now, but that's not who I am now. Like, I love Master of None, but I'm like, go do your fucking thing. Go have your own fucking hobbies. Like, I don't talk to him for 3 days out of the week, barely. We'll send one text. I'll text him, yeah, good night, I love you. He doesn't respond until the next evening. And he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm like, you didn't even fucking respond to my I love you text. But it is like, that's just us though. You know, it doesn't really. I just laugh at it. At the beginning, though, it used to bother me. I'm like, oh, that's just his communication style. That doesn't mean he doesn't love me or doesn't care about me.
Right.
He's just he just doesn't text. But if I was codependent, that would make me think, oh, well, does he not like me anymore? Are we not okay? Why isn't he giving that positive reassurance that everything's okay?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where that is sometimes when someone like pleads, oh, are you sure you're fine? Are you okay? Are you okay? Like that.
Does that make you mad? Are you sure?
That's terrible. That need for assurance is so awful.
Being needy like that for sure is a sign that you're probably codependent, or having people think too the need to send a good morning text every morning. You know, it's a sweet gesture. It's what she wants. Is it though? Is it too pushy? What does that say about your character? Are you doing that because you think the other person deserves that, because that will benefit you and your happiness?
Well, that's why I think it depends on how you react. If you don't get a text back for a while, do you get upset or worried?
Right.
Or do you just like send a good morning and then just leave it? And then when you hear back, you hear back. Because that's how you react to those things can maybe tell somebody if you are, in fact, codependent in that sense.
I think you just have to know you're not codependent. You just have to give I don't give a fuck mentality of just fuck everything, you know? Not that I want Master Done and I to break up, but I'm like, if we don't fucking work out, fuck it. It didn't work out. If it works out, fuck it. That's great, you know? Or maybe not fuck it. That's great. But I don't know. Just it is, it is what it is, versus I'm obsessive over it. And this has to work out because this is my only shot. So you need to respond back. You need to supply my happiness. I'm relying on you, but I'm not going to fucking say that. I'm just going to be a little passive aggressive and need you to give me that shit back because I'm operating at a negative emotional bank.
Or go overboard trying to take care of you and provide for you and everything in hopes that you will need them back, essentially. That's the other thing people do. But I think the fuck it attitude is actually how people get succeed in life is that you have to have this understanding, hey, I can't control everything. I can control aspects of who I am, and that's really the extent of it. And so you can't control how someone else is going to react. So all you can do is try to be the best person you are, and someone that you would want to date, someone that you would want to be with. And if you can be that best person, and then you'll find people who are attracted to that.
Yeah.
I do think there's a codependent behavior that both you and I do that that I think a lot of people do. I would guess probably almost 100% of people do when they're dating, and it's something that shows that everyone has codependent elements. And what that is making excuses for shortcomings or hiding someone's shortcomings.
Yes, absolutely yes. How could I forget that? Yes.
And then that's when we're first dating someone, and we have this tendency to put on those rose-colored glasses, and you've done that a lot with me, where
God.
you won't. We'll be talking about being honest here on the podcast, and then after someone that you end dating with somebody, like, oh my God, you won't believe what I didn't tell you, and then you'll have this list of things, and I'm like, Sarah, if you had said that from the beginning, I would have been like, everybody in the world would have been like, don't date that person, and you're like, well, that's why I didn't want to say anything, because you still wanted to go through with it anyways.
I knew it was a dumpster fire, but I just wanted it to play out. I wanted other things to be a dumpster fire, not the original red flag over there.
Right. And I do that too. I've been on, I've dated people where I just knew that there was a bad sign, and just either made an excuse for whatever was happening, or just not talked about it until afterwards, because it's a codependent thing. It's like, well, let me see where this goes. And then, the fact that we can walk away from it is important. That's a good sign.
But I feel I agree. Obviously, I agree with you, but in the same breath, not everybody's perfect. So some things that I would hide weren't terrible, and then other things I would hide were really bad, but not everybody's perfect, where I'm going to say, oh yeah, he
nobody expects perfection.
Right. I mean, I'm not perfect. Master of None's not perfect. There's things that I wish he would improve on, but it's not a make or break for me. I'm happy, and if he's good with where he's at, then that's not a red flag for me. It is what it is.
I'm not saying, obviously I'm talking about previous times when you've had stuff. He was like, oh, by the way, this guy said some really racist shit or something like that. And we're like, what? And you're like, yeah, I didn't want to say anything about that.
I just really thought it was hot, so I just wanted to see where this would go.
Yeah, so you just kind of ignore your own principles just to to pursue something. And I do think I would guess that almost 100% of people have done that. Have made an excuse for somebody's bad behavior or shitty behavior, and not told their friends about it, not said anything about it, and just try to let's just not worry about this, and just to see where it might go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
not far. That's where it goes. Not far.
And that's the thing, is when you aren't codependent anymore, it doesn't go far. But if you are codependent, then you continue that behavior, because then you continue doing that. You continue making excuses for someone. You shut yourself away from the world. You start only seeing that person and ignoring, all of all of your friends. Your partner's your only close relationship, and all of that. And you're so afraid that they're going to leave you that you'll you'll sacrifice so much of yourself, even your own personality and principles. And I think that's been. I don't think it's just romantic relationships either. I mean, codependency happens with a lot of things.
It happens with friendships too.
Friendships, and I remember back in the blogging days, all these mommy bloggers would have their blogs would be jadensmom.blogspot.com, and
that's their identity, is being that person's mother.
Yeah, and even though, of course, you want them to be a good mother, you could tell that was some unhealthy shit, because once those kids grew up and moved out, they didn't know who they were. They had no identity as a human being, as an individual, beyond being a mother and a spouse.
Yep.
And
if they lost the spouse too, they're completely fucked. Then they have no sense of purpose, and they have to throw themselves in, either try to pry themselves into their kids' lives once again, even though they're no longer living with them, or they have to jump into another relationship, or they just fall into this really deep depression because they have nothing now, and they're getting older and they don't have a companion. And what has their life amounted to for the past 20 years?
Right. Exactly. So I've seen a lot of, and I've seen over the last, I've been blogging, as I started blogging in 2004. So it's been 17 years. So I've seen a lot of these moms go through that. I've seen moms now who are now trying to figure out their identity, and they a lot of them got divorced, and they're going through a trampage, and they're but they're falling into these bad relationships because they don't know who they are. Like they also assume everybody's interests. Like they start dating somebody, and they're like, oh, you like riding motorcycles, I like riding motorcycles now, or
Kind
whatever.
of.
Yeah, it's like that's me now. I'm a biker. But then as soon as the next guy is like, oh, you like butterflies, I like butterflies too, let's have a butterfly garden. Like, and it's just that type of like
You don't
extreme
have
codependency.
boundaries for
Oh,
where you stand or fall on. You don't have anything that, no, I will not do this. Yes, I'm totally cool with this. This defines me here. You're just so nothing that
yep.
unless someone else has something that they're interested in, then like you said with the motorcycles, then that's my new personality now because I have nothing.
Yes,
It's
and
honestly really sad to me because I
it
know
is.
a lot of people personally that they just bounce around and they rely on other people to give them their sense of fulfillment. And I'm like, but wait, when it's all done, when your life is over, and I think about this, maybe it's because of quarantine too. I just get so into just being just me. When it's all done, you look at your life, what did you actually accomplish? What are you at your core? Not anybody else. Who are you? And I think for me, especially, this pandemic has really stripped away because I've been stuck in my fucking apartment alone for so long of who am I? What do I stand for? What do I want to do with my life? And it makes you evaluate those things where, especially people who are codependent now and they're struggling with relationships or things like that, they're probably having to come to terms with this right now, going, I'm
Yeah.
so fucked and I need people in my life, or because I'm imploding. Not that I'm going to implode, I'm already imploding. So I'm going to jump into a new relationship right now or suffocate other people because I need it, because I can't be alone during this pandemic. And it's sad. I mean, no one should be dealing with feeling depressed and anxious and all this shit alone, but
Right.
it's 10 times it's more magnified when you're codependent and you're in that situation alone.
Absolutely, because it's one of those situations where if you are unable to be alone with your own thoughts and alone in the quiet of the world without anybody around telling you what to think or anything like that, and you don't know how to handle that, like it's very sad, because like I feel like I have no problem being alone. I can go a whole day without talking to a single person and I feel fine, and then I want social interaction as well. But I know some people that just have this need, and they are finding it during like you said, during a pandemic, even harder to try to function. And it all boils down. I think codependency boils down to things in your past, but also like a low self-esteem
Yeah.
because you don't like yourself, and so you
And
try
that
to.
makes me really sad that there are
Yeah,
people out there who really just don't like themselves. And it makes me think, what can I do? Not that I'm going to be able to solve your problem, but what can I suggest for you to do so you like yourself more, And it's not, I'm pulling from people who I know are very codependent. It's not buying more shit that you don't need that's going to make you happy.
right.
It's not clinging on to people. It's what at your core is going to make you happy, because I want you to be happy at the end of the day with just you and your life, not your
Yes.
career. Just what if you, I don't know. I could go on. It's a very personal topic for me because there's someone really close to me who's very codependent. She will not admit it. And I kind of give suggestions of maybe you should seek counseling and talk to
Right.
somebody to help you sort through that. No, I don't need that. I'm fine. I just need a relationship. I just need a companion and that will fix it. And I'm like, but that's codependency though. And then, we get in arguments. No, that's not codependency. That's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, fuck, you can't get through to them. And it's just overwhelmingly sad to talk to someone who's struggling to find their sense of purpose and self-worth through someone else, and they can't right now, and they really shouldn't.
And it's especially frustrating because they have no personality. Like they don't have any sense of self or sense of identity, except when you try to talk to them about being codependent. They're like, "Well, that's just how I am," and you're
Right.
like, "Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, no, you don't know how you are. Like you don't know who you are in a vacuum. Like you don't know without people around you to reflect on. Like how you don't know who to be. What's your personality? Like what do you like? What do you like doing? What are your interests? What are your hobbies?" Like, and so many people have difficulty discussing even those things because they've sacrificed so much of their own personal identity just for the other person. And then when that person's not there anymore, they're just at a loss.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things I've said to this friend is, okay, you have a restart button. You have no debt. You have no husband, no responsibilities, no kids, no anything. You are 100% free. What do you want to do with that freedom?
Right.
What do you want to do? If you had a clean slate and you're struggling, what would make you happy with that clean slate? You have money, you're secure, you're good. You can move somewhere. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? You get to make that choice. And this person and other people have struggled to even come up with an answer. And I'm like, you need to do some soul searching. And I'm praying for you and I'm hoping the best for you because there's something lacking there.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, I have a list of things. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't have any responsibilities. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Here's the first 10 things I'm gonna do, and then after that, I have a whole nother list of shit I'm gonna do. You know, but if you're struggling to come up with even just a top 5, that's sign for concern in my eyes.
Absolutely. I have 14 projects that I would work on and just go start working on those and go somewhere to go work, like somewhere fun. And, and then I'd absolutely be able to answer that. It's one of those things that I feel like most people should be able to say. And that's a good test. I like that, that you came up with that.
Yeah.
I think we should talk a little bit about, like, if you find yourself in a codependent relationship and you find yourself wrestling with codependency, like, how do you break out of it? That's really the difficult part, because it's not easy.
So are you saying from the stance of you're the people pleaser codependent person, or the person who's dealing with someone who's kind of suffocating? Their
Well, I mean, I
partner's
would say
kind of
either
suffocating.
or. I mean, like, if you're in a codependent relationship, or if you find out that you are the codependent one, like, both of them, I feel like have some similar things. Like, if you were
True.
in the relationship, you have to learn to start setting boundaries, and
Right.
you have to learn, because codependent also tends to mean that they're both, like, you kind of both have those
A
tendencies in
little
some
bit,
way.
yeah.
Um, but you need to set boundaries, and I would say that's the number one thing: set boundaries and be honest. And when you're honest, don't take it personally. Like, either of you can't take it personally. You can't just, if someone says, hey, I don't like when you do this, or this bothers me, this frustrates me, then take that to heart. Don't get defensive, don't get shitty. Just listen to what they're actually saying. Like, listen to the actual words that are coming out of their mouth, and don't paint some scenario where this means they're about to leave you, but maybe this is
True,
a place
so
to,
true.
yeah.
They're not going to
Because
leave you. They're just trying to help the relationship continue by pointing out some problems. Every relationship has problems. Talking about them and working on how you can reach other in your relationship does not mean it's going to end. It means that they care about the relationship and they want to fix what's happening. So you can't
exactly.
jump to, oh, well, now we're ending, you know?
Exactly, and then that's the thing, is maybe the best thing would be to have the relationship end. So the fact that they're trying to save it
Sure.
means that you should maybe listen to them and try to work with them, because it could be that the next step is, oh, you're not even willing to listen and talk and set boundaries and give us some, take some space, like take space from each other, so you actually have some time apart. And if you're not willing to do all those things because you're so worried they're going to leave you, they're going to leave you, because that's the next step, is to be like, all right, then we have to break up, we have to be done, because it's not healthy for either of us.
I feel like a lot of people bring up problems in their relationship to their partner when it's almost too late to salvage. You know,
Yeah.
the next month is pretty much, they have a couple weeks to show me that they're gonna work on this and we're gonna try to fix it, or I'm fucking out. You know, they already have a deadline. And I think setting boundaries is definitely number one. I think another thing is, if it's a long-term relationship and you've really been wanting to have a future with this person, go back to therapy, you know? That's another
Yes,
fallback,
yes,
is either
absolutely.
the individual therapy or couples therapy to try to work on it. There's
Hmm.
really no shame in going to therapy. And if you want this relationship to work and you're both on the same page with that, why not give that a try?
Yes. You also need to start developing friendships outside of your one relationship. Start developing actual friendships with other people. And that's going to help too, because if you've
And
closed
don't get
off,
jealous.
well, yes, that as well. But if you've closed off your whole relationship, so it's just the two of you, and neither of you have any friends anymore, or they have friends and you don't, you need to start developing friendships, because you're suffocating, and you're very unhealthy, and it's not okay. Like, it's something that you were like, well, no, we love each other, it's fine. No, you guys both are individuals. Like, no matter what, you are not joined at the hip, and you shouldn't act like that.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
And then the last thing I would say too is really stop thinking you don't deserve like someone to be with you. Stop thinking that you can't handle being alone. Stop worrying about what someone. Stop assuming the worst out of everybody, because that only serves to make things worse. And you need to get rid of that negative way of thinking. You need to understand, once again, kind of that fuck it attitude. You're going to be fine, and you need to be you. You need to be true to yourself. You need to treat yourself right. You have priorities. You also have principles and things to which you aspire. Those cannot disappear because you meet somebody. And if they have disappeared, you need to start taking care of yourself.
Yeah. If you're having that habit of thinking negative things are going to happen in your relationship and you're constantly worrying and it's becoming a habit, it's going to show up in real life. It's just not going to stay in your head. So it goes back to, you don't want to have negative self-talk all the time of, oh, I'm so ugly. Oh, I'm not worthy. Oh, I'm not whatever. Fucking start tricking your brain of like, oh, I'm fucking amazing. Oh, anybody would want to be with me. Oh, whatever. And that's going to show up in your demeanor, in your relationship, and would hopefully better your relationship, up your self-confidence, and you'll have a better life for it, I don't know. That's it. I don't know. What else
Maybe
is there
start
to
with
say?
small
Just be
steps and
positive.
just don't sit on the same side of the booth of the restaurant. Just take
You
a
could
small
start
step.
there. Yeah,
Just
you
start
could
there.
start
Just
there.
try to sit across from each other and see how that goes.
And don't hold hands.
Don't hold hands. Like, you don't have to be in constant fucking contact with each other. How about you just sit across from each other, enjoy your meal, and talk to each other like two civilized adults who both have personalities and interests separate that you can talk about. God, can you imagine like living with someone and spending all of your time with them, and then you would have nothing to talk about? Hey, so what about this show? Yeah, we watched that together. Oh, that's right. Hey, so this funny
Oh,
thing happened.
fuck.
Yeah, I was with you when it happened. Oh, that's right. So I mean, like, maybe that's why they sit next to each other, because they're not going to talk anyways. They just have to sit there and just meld into one amorphous blob of a human being who has no personality at all. I
Ooh,
don't know.
that sounds like a terrible life. That's why
That's
I think it's good to go time without talking to your partner, because it's like, what else are we gonna fucking talk about? You already know
true.
what's going on in my day. You already know what I like. You already watch my fucking TV shows. I can't gossip about my sex life because I'm fucking you. Like, what else? Like, what else is there to talk about?
That's right. That's
So
right.
why are we obsessively texting throughout the day? Why are we constant communication when we're just gonna come home? And I mean, I've seen this in other relationships too, where it's text throughout the day, it's whatever, and then they come home and they just don't say shit. And then
Yeah.
they go to their separate areas of the house. They do they watch their own show. They do the laundry. They do whatever, and then they go to sleep and they do it all over again. I don't know. That sounds fucking miserable to me.
It is miserable, and that's why a lot of
Ugh.
them end up going crazy. And like
And
when they
divorce.
eventually get divorced, like they realize this whole free world that they've missed out for 30 years, and it's amazing. Like, and they don't know what to do with it, because they don't, like I said, they don't know who they like. They don't even have a personality anymore. It's terrible. And
Don't
I
do
saw
that.
don't do that. I will say that, like, codependency is a difficult topic, and everyone has codependent elements and aspects of the behavior. It's only when it all comes together in a perfect storm that it can be really unhealthy. But it's important to think about it and to listen, to yourself and see if you really are maybe not in the best situation, that you really are codependent, that you really are justifying things you shouldn't justify and sacrificing too much of yourself. And then you have to see whether or not you're strong enough to break free. And it is a difficult topic for us to tackle, just because there's so much of it. Codependency is one of those massive issues that I would say everybody suffers from in some capacity.
I think it's a good point too of you asking, Sarah, are you codependent? I'm like,
Yeah.
no, but then like I bring up certain things of, well, I did do this, but that doesn't mean I'm in a codependent relationship now. But there's definitely been tendencies in the past. It goes back to, everyone talks about their toxic ex, but then you don't look at yourself and go, well, what the fuck was I doing that was potentially toxic too? I'm not out of the clear here, where everyone
Right.
has toxic tendencies that cause a relationship to end, but everyone wants to call out the other person for their wrongdoings, but not really take a look at themselves. So I think that's another thing too, of just take a look at yourself the next time you're wanting to call someone else out on their toxic behavior, or
Yeah, not
and
bad.
think, how am I influencing that? Or have I done something like that? Or have I said something or thought a certain way that influenced that person to be toxic? Because no one's free of free of being toxic on their own.
Yeah. That's very true. It does sometimes take two people. I mean, there are times, when it comes to abuse and everything, where it's just one person's behavior. Obviously,
yeah.
If you are trying to figure out if you're codependent, if you are trying to figure out how do I set boundaries, or just find maybe ways to maybe build a community of friends and potential people that might be your allies and try to avoid codependency, I would suggest maybe our Facebook group would be a good place for that, because there's a lot of supportive people in there, and there's a lot of people who can, give us solid advice. I'm in there too, and so Sarah's in there occasionally, but like it's a good place to see a lot of other things that are happening and realize maybe that you're not alone. And so that's one thing I would recommend, is maybe joining that Facebook group, and that's facebook.com/groups/DKS podcast.
And if you want to leave us a non-toxic review on iTunes and not be a toxic individual on there, you can leave us a 5-star rating review on iTunes. We would really appreciate it, as stated earlier in this episode. Or you can follow us on Spotify if you listen on Spotify, so you don't miss any new episodes that we release every other week.
That's true. And if you have questions and you don't want to ask publicly, but you want to ask anonymously, you can always email us at datingkindofsuckspodcast@gmail.com, or at our Instagram at datingkindofsucks, or even one of our own personal Instagrams. You can always DM us through Facebook as well, like anywhere you want to try to send us information, through Twitter, etc., and ask us, and we will post in our group and get advice for you anonymously. So you don't always have to share your name and everything if you're worried about that. So it is a safe place to get advice, and so I think it might be could be helpful if you're trying to figure out maybe if you are living that codependent lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. And we can talk about it on our show, where you can also watch our show on YouTube right now at youtube.com/datingkindofsucks. We post every episode on there as well, and you can see me looking like a 12-year-old boy right now in a sweatshirt and sweatpants.
And then finally, I'd like to send out a big shout out to all of our supporters on Patreon, patreon.com/DKS podcast. For $5 a month, it helps us pay the bills for what we have to do to maintain the website and the podcast and all that. And then finally, I want to just also pitch both of our other podcasts, because we haven't done that a little bit, even though we do it in the mid break. But
it's true.
Sarah's podcast, Millennial Toes, has been getting some really rave reviews. People have really enjoyed hearing her stories, and appreciate learning something you might never even think about.
Hey, if you want to start a side business, I got you.
Yeah, exactly. She's got you covered, and she can answer it not just for foot fetish, but also for any type of like sex work type things. She's got a lot of that covered, and I think can give some really good input and advice there. And then my True Crime podcast is back. I took a couple months off, and Angel at the Starlight Motel is now back with bi-weekly episodes, starting today is when the episode just dropped, and so it'll every 2 weeks. So you can join me there while I talk about whether or not this whether the stripper murdered her boss or not, and we can talk about how fucking crazy that is. But with that, we're gonna go have a Valentine's Day weekend, and we'll be back in 2 weeks and tell you all how that went.
Yep.
And in the meantime, enjoy and be safe, and have a good rest of your February.
Until next time.
Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we get no luck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers he plucks. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.